let me just repeat, and I'll say that I'm repeating it, this man came up to me afterwards and he said, well, isn't this in the genes? And I looked at him strangely, and I couldn't imagine what he was talking about the cancer or colon cancer being in the genes. And I said, well, what do you mean? He said, well, there are 2 or 3. He mentioned whether it was a cousin, an uncle, a father, or brother, and I can't remember all of that, members of the family who also had colon cancer. And so therefore, he felt he was a product of this family and it was in the genes. Well, when we started to plan this convention, I thought to myself, as a matter of fact, I immediately thought of a patient that we had helped, I think, 13 or 14 years ago, and periodically was in touch with, and I told this to this patient, and I said, I don't think so. I said, because we have a patient who's a colon cancer patient, whose mother had a colon cancer and had a colostomy, died within a year, whose father had colon cancer, had a colostomy, and died within a year. But this patient isn't dead. He's doing very well, a colon cancer patient. So when we started to plan this convention, I said, this is time for me to call Bernie Evans and have him make a presentation, because I'm sure there might be other people where there's a member of the family with breast cancer, assuming therefore they're going to be victims, and especially if they get breast cancer and they've seen a parent die, that they can be absolutely sure death is imminent for them. And so you can see the importance of this particular case history, and he's a very pleasant, outgoing kind of person with a smile on his face at all times. And so how can a person like that possibly have a cancer problem and even succumb to a cancer problem? I want him to tell you his case history. Bernie, it's a delight to have you here.
I hope I don't pass out. I'm more scared than I was prior to the surgical procedure. Well, let's see.
Don't let it bother you. Pay no attention.
Oh, this thing? I don't know. Do I need it?
No, yes.
Okay. All right. I made some memos while I was talking to a client one day, and I'll ramble on. Ruth Sackman will get me back in line in case I drift too far. Tomorrow, I wrote down here, tomorrow I'll be 76. Thank you. And that's the truth. Thanks to Ruth Sackman, 14 years ago, I'm going to read this. I was released from Beth Israel Hospital in Manhattan, not far from where you reside, where a resection of my colon was performed. It was a stage 2 cancerous growth. The doctor claimed that it was the worst case he ever had. It seemed like the fecal matter was backing up and coming out of my mouth. The pain was impossible to take. I had gone on with these attacks for some 8 months. I wasn't aware of what was going on because for the last 30 years prior to that, I was very health conscious. The mixed diet, vegetables, fruits, nuts, meat, fish, a whole food diet, holistic, call it whatever you wish, and I felt wonderful. 20 or 30 years prior to that, it was hell. I had seen every doctor in New York, constipation all the time, couldn't accomplish anything, bad student, you name it, it was a problem. Immediately after I changed my diet, call it a la Rodale, McFadden, Adele Davis, the mixed diet, I found that I was feeling great. Everything worked great. My business was doubling every few weeks or so. I couldn't figure it out, and today I haven't been able to. Well, I'm just going to continue. I thought this was just constipation. I consumed large amounts of figs and so forth. Nothing worked. The only relief I received during this period was taking enema every 2 days or so. I was caught doing that down in Costa Rica, and I was down in Costa Rica because a business reason somebody gave me I won a contest, and I got by. Without taking that enema every 2 days, I would have died. I was eating a good diet of whole foods, mixed diet at the time, as I say, a la Rodale, vitamins, vinegar, and so on, whole food for so many years before. Now, why did I get cancer? Me of all people. My mother died had a colostomy at age 54, and my father at age 62. An addenda to this, my mother claimed, oh, we have the best foods. Oh, yeah, the chocolate eclairs, and don't tell the doctor with a high blood pressure. We have 190, blood pressure over 110 or so, and all the chocolate cake and the grease and the garbage, and we had the best foods. Well, apparently we didn't, because it didn't do me any good those days. Until I was about 35, I didn't get on my feet. My dad was 62 and Mom 54. She was a young girl. Well, they're never going to get me at 54.
No more.
No more. It's too late for that. And as I say, they had these colostomies. Both were performed in them. They both died 1 year after surgery at a young age. Now, my surgeon said to me, he said, and he was a man, one of the biggest in Manhattan. Dr. Ginsburg had a surgery in Beth Israel, a teaching hospital. Can you all hear me out there? Yes. Okay, I'll try to. I'll try to remember that. Just holler out if I. And I said, you know, when he wasn't fooling around at age 84 with the nurses who respected his senility, I pulled him aside and I said, hey, Doc, how the heck did I ever get this thing? And I thought I was going to get the magic answer. I was walking around with tubes in me and all over the place. I looked like I was wired for sound. And he said, well, predisposition. I said, I don't know. These lovely nurses are predisposed to me. Why did I get cancer? And I figured, well, enough of that, and I moved on and changed the subject. Well, let's see what else we want to tell you now. Now, I'm here today, thanks to the good and constant advice offered by Ruth Sackman. I bought many books on the subject, but without Mrs. Sackman's leadership and guidance, I never would have made it. I use these pancreatic enzymes daily with a diet consisting of vegetables, fruits, and nuts, a cup of yogurt daily with an egg here and there, about 8 to 12 eggs or so a week. The carrot juice, freshly made. I also run the urine test with Dr. Navarro occasionally. I've gone from 5 to 0, from down to negative. I was negative 3 years ago, and got a little careless and didn't take a test for 3 years. And a couple of trips to Atlantic City and cheating here and there, I got the idea to take another test. And I came back and I got a 4 and I started to worry. And I behaved myself again, and then I got in line and then ran another test a month or two later, and I was down to 3. And that's supposed to be debatable. I'm very angry.
No, not
3, 3 I'm not too happy with. I want the 0.
Okay.
I know. But I'm working on that, and I think I probably up down to a 1 or a 2, or will be shortly. Now, all this was accomplished without a doctor, because, I know more than all the doctors, you know, and I know more than Ruth Sackman. That was the problem she had with me, and she still does. It's that deluded ego that pops up all the time, you know. And the fact that I was one of the organizers of the New York Natural Hygiene Group and all like that, you know, we know all the answers. Troll and Sheldon, and the late Dr. Shelton, and the vegetarians. I figured, well, I can't get cancer. Had I known what I knew now, and I wouldn't have gone around with this for 8 months. I could have called Ruth Sackman and asked her a couple of questions, gone down to Navarro. I could have done a lot of things, but I felt, well, it's nothing, it's constipation. And I wasted those 8 months. Well, let's see the rest. The bottom line on all this, I guess, is a happy, positive attitude in life. I try. I'm a businessman. I do business with the public. And it's not always that easy. You do the best you can. There's good, positive attitude in life with a good diet of raw, unprocessed foods that will heal the body. I don't treat the tumor only the host, me, the cause of the cancer. Avoid stress where possible. Get plenty of rest. I do that, I'll guarantee you that. And lead the so-called holistic life. Sunshine with reason, and I don't always do it with reason. Fresh air and organic foods if possible. Now that's the whole story. That's what it's kept me alive, and I hope
I love life. I enjoy working. And that's about the whole thing. Now, if anybody wants to ask me, I'll say, this is what I did. I'm not going to tell you what to do because I might have to or want to change some of these modalities tomorrow or 6 months from now. But without the captain here, I'm all over the place. Generally, I have spoken. I've spoken to a half a dozen of these practitioners today. They're all more or less will start you out with a good basic raw food diet with all the live enzymes, and a good deal of them, I guess, are recommending the pancreatic enzymes that I take after each meal. I don't cheat on those. I don't mind taking extras. I'll get up maybe in the night at 3 o'clock, 4 o'clock, or 2 o'clock, or whatever time it is. If I wake up, and I'll throw 3 down. And on an empty stomach, I got some of that business from Dr. Kelly, and I don't know how good that is, but here I am. You decide. If that'll do you any good, I hope I've done something right. I know I've done a lot of wrong things, and you'll be the